I don't know what I want this video to be. I want to talk about this new pseudo-random way of picking media to consume, specifically books for this video. I came up with a new method, which is mostly random but with weighted probabilities. For example, I don't particularly care if I get through every single audiobook that I own, so that might have less of an importance than, say, trying to get through, my 25 and 25 or through all of these library books behind me. This new project is a way for me to find ways to focus on what to read, because sometimes I have so many goals or aspirations that I don't know which one to focus on. And I'm really good at doing meta work towards my hobbies. So I have many spreadsheets related to reading. I have many spreadsheets related to video games. And this is just a way for me, another spreadsheet for me to use to choose what to focus on. It's just a way to help me focus. And what I'm calling it is this is a working title, the Ultra Meta Moody Book Project, or the Ultimate Mobo Pro, whatever you want to call it, or the book project. That is, it's so fitting. So that's what I want to do going forward. Right now, it's March 4th, I think, and I have had a slow start to the year reading-wise. Part of that is because I've moved recently and I'm working more than I did last year, and I have a lot of plants to take care of. I also started streaming again, mostly video game content at the moment. So it's like I have less time and I just need a better way to focus on making sure that I am doing the things that I love. Just like a better way to do it, like a more focused effort. So that's the plan. I'm in the middle of 3 books right now. I'm really close to the end of 2 of them. And then I have one that it's a middle grade, so it's going really fast. So it's about time. I like to usually read only 3 books at a time, and I try to keep my genres super separate. So, 1 fantasy, 1 science fiction, and then 1 horror. That's usually, horror, thriller, just like 3 very separate genres so that I, in my brain, can keep them separate. So right now I am reading 2 fantasy novels, which hasn't been as much of a struggle as I thought it would be. One's a young adult fantasy and one being, some people call it a horror fantasy. I don't know. I would not maybe call it that. Mystery fantasy. Anyway, they're very different worlds, and somehow my brain's doing all right keeping them separate. I also like one more than the other, so. The point of this video is just that I really wanted to try using my new method.
Okay, so I just wanted to explain a little bit more about how this Ultimate Mobo Pro spreadsheet tool works. Here I have a list of about 18 things that I want to focus on. I made reading goals at the beginning of the year. I do keep a reading journal. I also have a reading log that has a place for me to list out some of the goals that I have. As far as my reading goals. And so I have incorporated some of those. I also have goals that are just in my head that I would actively like to do more of. I also have some goals that never appear on this, but this is a tool that I think will evolve over time. This next column over, I have essentially the weight of each item. The things that are the least important, I made them pretty light. I think you can actually see them better than I can. But the ones that have the least importance currently for me, I put as 1, and then the most important ones, I have so many library checkouts right now. I have that as a 5. And that will, like library checkouts are not always going to be the most important thing to me. Just right now, I feel overwhelmed by them. So that's why they are high up there. So these weights will change probably every single time that I use this or close to it. This one is just kind of for this column's for me to like know where to look. And then going forward, it's just kind of more information. These columns are not really super important. They are for me, but they're not important to the tool. These numbers here on the left are also important. They are the essentially like how many entries of each item there are. So the weight for like 25 and 25, it's like a weight of 3 is what I'm giving it. So essentially I want it to be option 1, 2, and 3. So then acquired recently, that's now option 4. So it's just doing the math behind how the spreadsheet works. As far as the total number of entries for how I have this set up, with all the weights in here for now, I have between 1 and 49. So if I rolled a 47, 48, 49, because everyone is talking about it, I gave an importance of 3. If I rolled one of those numbers, it would be for the item above. So one thing to note is like if I rolled a 3, there's obviously no 3 represented here, but I would know, well, it's not 4, so it's the one before it. So it's a tool for me, so as long as I know how it works, I feel like that's the most important part. Feel free to let me know if there's something you think that I should add to the list or have questions on why certain things are the way that they are. That's the rundown of how this ultra meta moody book project tool is supposed to work.
So now really, I just want to see how using this new tool works, how it goes, if it's something that I think is actually the ultimate tool for me. This tool was designed in a way that will allow me to hone my choices, to really filter down my choices, but also give me the freedom of mood reading within a particular category. That has been my struggle with previous iterations of things like this. On my Twitch channel, I've done randomly choosing a game to play out of a huge list of games that I personally do want to play, but then when I roll something that's maybe not exactly what I want to play right now, it becomes problematic. So to avoid that, I have created categories that will help me narrow down my list of options. And from there, I'll be able to choose from a smaller subset of books. That's the ultimate reason why I think that this is the best version of this random choice tool, I guess. So we're gonna give it a go and we're gonna see what happens. And we're gonna do that by rolling with this random number generator through random.org. It is the most random you can get. There are a lot of tools that claim that they're random, but this is the philosophy behind random.org is that this is the closest to actual randomness. Okay, so there are 18 categories, but I have a total of 49 entries with that weighted scale. So I'm going to prime it 3 times. So these first 3 don't count. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And then this is going to be the category that I'm going to look at going forward. Number 14, which is from my first chapter project. Okay, now I get to explain all the things. So my first chapter project, that actually has been featured on this channel, so how fitting. Back when my channel first started, one of the things that I wanted to do was I wanted to find a way to get through some of the arcs, advanced readers copies that I had been sent. They were ones that were upcoming and I wanted to figure out a way to, this is again kind of a previous iteration of this, I wanted to find a way to like choose the best one to try to get through, the first one to read, like which is the one that's the most intriguing. And so I was reading first chapters of upcoming books is how this started. And thus began I read the first chapter of tons of books, lots of books. I've given many first chapters like really high ratings, and then I have never read them. So that was the reason why I want to make some progress with my first chapter project. I don't really have a goal with it. I do have a way to like kind of compare what my final rating is versus what the first chapter intrigue rating was, which some of those results have been pretty surprising. I don't have enough data though, even for me personally, to draw any conclusions from it. I just want to read more books off of the list that I have given pretty high ratings. My number one 10 out of 10 intrigue rating is actually The Devil by Name by Keith Rawson, which is a sequel to Fever House, and I loved that book. I read it last year and I absolutely loved it. And so Fever House is the conclusion to that duology. The first chapter gave me very much Last of Us vibes. And so I loved it. So that would be a really good contender. I would have to borrow it from the library. I mean, I feel like I'm supposed to have it by now. I don't have it. Do I have it? I don't know what happened. So I either returned it to the library. I have had it in my possession before, so maybe I'm still waiting for it. So that might not be the best choice for this, just because I don't have it at hand and I would really like to start it. Really, tonight would be ideal. Other things that I've given 10 out of 10, My Darling Dreadful Thing by Joanna Van Veen. That one I own. I bought it. I loved it so much, and I love the cover. It's very gothic. I don't know where it is. I have started unpacking my books, and I have not found that one yet. Okay, Bright Sword I actually have. Bright Sword could actually be a good option for this. The only reason why maybe not is that it is 670 pages. So that would be a commitment. I am just coming off of a 400-page book, so maybe this wouldn't be the perfect book to start right now, but it was like, what, the third highest first chapter rating that I have given one of my arcs. This is an arc that I got and still haven't read. Something that I might have. I do have Evil in Me by Brahm checked out at the moment. I was kind of hoping to choose a current checkout, so this could be an option. Let me put The Bright Sword. That's an option. Evil in Me, also an option. Brahm. This is, I was glad that I got the arc, but I also really wanted to see, in the middle of many of Brahm's books, you get to see like the actual artwork that was inspired by the book or inspired the book. I'm glad that I have that physically with me. Let's see what else I have. The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. Have I found that yet? I did not find The Tainted Cup. I own it somewhere. It is somewhere in one of my many boxes, but it hasn't cropped up yet. What I did find though is I did have My Darling Dreadful Thing. That one was already on my shelf, so that is another option. Another 10 out of 10 that I just received recently in the physical form is Sword Heart by T. Kingfisher. This one takes place in the same Saints of Steel universe, and I have I think the first book of that series that I would want to read this book first. I know you probably don't have to, but also this is such a gorgeous book. Yeah, definitely an option. The next option we have here, it was a 9.5 out of 10 on my first chapter intrigue rating, and that would be Lovely Creatures by Katie Breisky. Then we have Beth Revis's Full Speed to a Crash Landing. I also gave a 9.5 out of 10. So these are all current arcs that I own or have currently checked out from the library. A few more that I would like to include on this list of possibilities is The Black Tongue Thief by Christopher Buehlman. I do actually have this one checked out because I couldn't find, or I didn't have this copy that I own unpacked yet. But I just found it last night. This one I didn't receive as an arc. I don't know when it was published, a while ago. In 2022, I was sent an arc copy of the prequel for this, The Daughter's War. And so this one is what I would call an arc blocker. Like, I would like to read this one while the other one is a prequel. I feel like reading the first published book in the series is my usual route of what to do. So I haven't been able to read that arc that I was given because I didn't get through this one in time. So this would be one that I would like to add to the pile of possibilities. Another one, this one I gave 9.5, another arc blocker. I was offered an arc for, I don't even remember. It's like the 5th book in the series, something about the Arniston house, something like that. And so this is another one. This is number 1 in that 5, well, who knows how many books are in there in that series now. This would be one that I would also have to read before going forward. I gave it a 9.5 on my intrigue rating scale when I read it. And then lastly, this one is not an arc, because at that point, when this one was being published, I had smartened up and I realized, hey, maybe I shouldn't apply for every single book that looks good. I should apply for books that I definitely will be able to get to. And so this one is not an art copy, but it is a book that is on my March TBR. Like, I really wanted to read this one. I wanted to read it last month, and I wanted to get it done either in February or March. So because this is the last month in my mind for me to read this one I also want to put on here, because this one, I think I give this one a 10 out of 10 for intrigue rating. So I'm thinking I'm gonna pick from these, the ones that I have already physically here with me today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. These 9 books. I have been reading a ton of fantasy. Right now I'm in the middle of 2 fantasy books and like a mystery spy novel. I could really go for some horror or for some science fiction, but I'm gonna go ahead and pick one of these, and I'll let you know what I picked and how I'm feeling about it once I get a little bit into it. It is 2 days later, and I have just hit page 77 of Full Speed to a Crash Landing. So it seems like it's time for a bit of an update. Oh, first let me show you my super cute bookmark for this. Hold on, let me put it in front of my face so it focuses a little bit. It's this space age hotel key looking bookmark. I got it from Sticky Club, and it's made by wolfandbear.co is the website, the designer. But yeah, I just really love it. It's been the first time that I've been able to like use it, because I haven't really been reading much sci-fi lately. So Full Speed to a Crash Landing. I fully forgot that this was a sci-fi romance, and I'm not upset about it. I'm not somebody that really regularly reads romance, but in February, I think it's like on a lot of people's minds, love and being in love and etc., etc. So I had it in my mind that maybe I should try to prioritize some romance, but I never did that. So here in March now, I am reading a sci-fi romance, and I'm not upset about it. It is following our main character, Ada Lamar, who has crash landed on a planet. This is all in the synopsis. Crash landed on a planet and is essentially looting another crash ship, and finds herself in dire straits. She sends out a distress call to a much larger ship that's nearby and is trying to get help before her oxygen runs out. Thankfully, she's rescued by this government contracted ship, and things evolve from there. We are now going through like how she's integrating with this crew, how that's going over the people she's meeting. She's immediately thirsting for uh, the main like thinky person. He doesn't have a title so far as I know. She's thirsting for Ryan, and he is playing cool, calm, and collected, I guess. While I'm not usually super into romance plots, this one has not been overly annoying to me. It's been kind of funny more than anything. The comedy in this book is pretty heavy-handed, so if it's not your sense of humor, you might not enjoy it. This is not 100% my sense of humor. I'm not quite on the nose with what I think is hilarious. I usually go for dry humor, so this is definitely not dry humor. It's very in your face. But there are moments where the humor will back off, and so I can forget that that was supposed to be funny. So it's fine. It's been going all right. Throughout this story, we're also discovering that Ada has some sort of underlying motivation, and we don't know what that motivation is yet, nor do we really know why the Halifax, the government contracted ship, why it was out there trying to collect salvage from the downed ship on this planet. I'm not really interested in the will they, won't they of the situation, but I am curious about the motivation of the characters of each group within this story. I'm curious to see where it goes from here, because I do know that there's currently one sequel out. I think this is supposed to be a trilogy of novellas. I'm not totally sure on that, but I'm curious how this continues along in the overall story of this. So I will check in again probably when I finish this, since I'm so far through it already. So that might be in a few days. Then I'll let you know my final thoughts on how this went, and if this was a good choice for our first use of that new tool, the Book Project. All right, I have returned with some final thoughts on Beth Revis's Full Speed to a Crash Landing. I was going to this, I was pretty mild for most of it, and then I hit the 66% mark, and I was just blown away. Suddenly there were layers being revealed, and the characters felt like they had substance, and the story finally sounded like it had something to say. It was awesome. I was so happy with it by the end. The other thing I really liked about this book is it never felt like the romance overwhelmed the sci-fi elements, the sci-fi space. It was very much at the forefront of the entire story, which I very much appreciated. And that was probably for the best anyway, because when it comes to the romance in the story, even as somebody that doesn't enjoy romance stories necessarily, it just didn't seem like these characters had a lot of chemistry, but I don't even know if that's true. One of our main characters, Ada, she is incredibly charismatic, whereas the other main character, Ryan, he is not. We're following Ada through most of the book, and Ryan, he's a main character, but he's on the sidelines. He is like the equivalent of space, khaki, and polo shirt. You know, like you're just giving this like essence of who this person is, and it's tan, you know? Like something else that I was also kind of in the middle on was in the ending part of this book. The story is essentially 162 pages, and then we have about 20 pages worth of memos, department communication, and this is maybe the first time we're ever getting any input from Ryan. So suddenly, not a tannish gray blob, there's maybe some color in there. But there's like footnotes written within the memos. There's little footnotes, and it's like Ryan's thoughts on everything, including like swearing. So it's not like actually in the memo. So it's really confusing. Like I've never gotten a memo and then like added footnotes to it. It was just like kind of strange. The format was very interesting, but not in a good way. What it did do well is we finally did get some insight into this other character, and it also seems to maybe be setting us up for where the story is going next. This is the first novella in a series of 3 novellas. As far as I know, it's just going to be a trilogy, but who knows these days. So in the end, after the first chapter garnering at a 9.5 intrigue rating out of 10, I was really thinking that it was not going to come even close to that, which has been kind of the trend. Spoiler alert. But the final rating came in. I ended up giving it a 4.25 out of 5 because I really liked it. And my personal rating system is based off of the old school Netflix version of their rating system. So that was 5 stars was I loved it. 4 stars was I really liked it. 3 stars was I liked it. 2 stars, I didn't like it. 1 star, I hated it. And then, or maybe like at that point it should be I really disliked it, but that's my I hated it. If I don't rate anything under 1, because, and even 1 I should never hit, because I would be hoping that I would be DNFing books that I know that I'm not liking, I'm not enjoying. So who should read this is, 1, people who might enjoy a Becky Chambers story if it didn't follow any queer characters at all. You might also enjoy this if you enjoy space pirates or salvage missions and don't mind a little bit of a cozier story. This would also be excellent for somebody that is in a reading slump and is thinking that just a nice sci-fi will do the trick. So this was the first book I chose utilizing that ultra meta moody book project tool. And I was really just doing this to see if this tool was actually going to be this ultimate solution that I thought it was going to be. And while this book did end up getting a particularly high rating, the reason why I do believe that this is going to be a way for me to help myself narrow down choices for what to read. What made it a success is not that I got a highly rated book out of this. What makes it a success was I never had that feeling that I hadn't made the decision to read this, to pick this particular book. And that is what I was trying to avoid. So this tool has left me feeling like I still have agency in my decisions, even though part of the decision-making process is being offloaded to something else. So I think this is a win. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how I can utilize this in the future. I don't plan on using it all the time, every single time I read a book. I plan on using it when I don't know what I want to read at all. Like I'm totally lost, there's too many options. That's what this tool is going to be for. So I'm probably not going to be using my Ultimate Mobo Pro for the rest of March, and possibly not even in April. I might be able to work it in there, because in April I'm gonna hopefully be participating in Slime and Slasher's Old School April readathon. I'm looking forward to that. And there's not, in that one, I don't think I have to have like a super set idea of what I want to read. So I might be able to utilize this a little bit if I feel the need. I do look forward to using this tool again. And I am thinking that I'm going to make some sort of video series out of it. I think it's going to be fun. So thank you for joining me on this journey to discovering if this is the ultimate method for helping me choose what books to read in the future. Until next time, goodbye!